Welcome to Annie's. I'm Nancy McNally of Nancy McNally Quilts. In today's project, we are going to be making an adorable table runner titled Think Spring by Julie Weaver. We're going to be working on learning how to do the stitch and flip method, making flying geese, and raw edge machine applique. But our stitch and flip method, there's just a little extra step in there we're going to show you today to make our leaves that are on the stem of each flower. So come on and join me. Let's get our fabrics together, our supplies together, and let's get started on making this adorable, adorable table runner, Think Spring. And I will tell you, I am thinking spring right now. So let's talk about the supplies we're going to need to make this adorable table runner Think Spring. You're going to need a fabric marking pen or pencil that is not permanent. I always try to label everything, so I just use sticky notes or whatever you use. It helps to keep things organized. You're also going to need rotary cutter, your iron, basic sewing supplies, a ruler, and here's what I do. Because we're going to be doing what I call the stitch and flip method, I always use my open toe foot. And why do I do that? Because I can see when I place the square that I'm going to, the shape that I'm going to stitch right on the drawn line, I can line the line up with the little red mark, which is the center mark on my open toe foot, so that I can see right where the needle's going and nothing obstructs my view. So I always have this on hand. Matter of fact, I have one for every one of my sewing machines. And then, of course, a 1/4 inch sewing foot. And for me, I have to have one with a fabric guide. Can't live without it. I just can't live without it. All right. So let's get started. We're going to work on our flowers. So as you can see, I have 2 of my flowers already created. I have the yellow one, and instead of using red, I chose pink because that's what I had on hand. And these were cut from a pre-cut bundle pack. They were scraps left over. So if you see like the pinked edges, that's why. That's what they're from. Let's get my machine started. Now, I'm going to go ahead and insert my foot onto my sewing machine. There we go. Move this one out of the way. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to need our O, P, and Q squares. Those are the colors of your flowers. And then we're going to need the B squares to show, the difference between each flower petal. And that will create our stitch and flip segments. So I'm going to just lay this right sides together. And I'm going to use my fingers. Now, anytime I am doing a stitch and flip, I always try to make sure that I can sew from like the middle of the square instead of the corner. So keep that in mind. You won't need to do that for these, for the flower petals, but when we move to the leaves of this that are on the stem, you'll see what I'm talking about. So let me get this one sewn on here. I've already got my machine set up. I'm going to drop my presser foot, and you know what? I also have the feature where I can turn on the laser light. So if you have that feature, then you probably don't need to draw the line. You can just use the laser to line it up from corner to corner. All right, let's get this started. There we go. All right, so before I press or cut the excess away, I always take and fold it over and make sure that the corners, everything lines up to where it's supposed to be, just in case you might have misaligned it on the back. That's always helpful to know if you did that. So before I press, I'm going to trim away. So I'm going to use my ruler. I'm going to use the 1/4 inch line on my ruler. I just place it directly on that stitched line and then trim, ta-da, away. Now, these are not large enough to keep, so these have to go in the trash. Or if you have a friend who uses them for whatever, then you can keep them, store them, and give them to that friend. All right, so our next step would be to trim away, and then you're going to take your iron. If you're using a marker or a pen, excuse me, to that the drawn line is removed by the heat of the iron, make sure you do that. If it's one of those that needs water, don't press this first, spritz it with your water, and then press. Now let's pull our first flower together. So I've got both of these, so I can look at them, refer back to them. You can also look at the pattern. So this is block 1, or let's just say block 1. See where that goes? Now we're going to take and rotate it. Rotate again. And then rotate like that. And so that all these corners come together, so there's no B squares that come to the middle. The middle is going to be reserved for the center of the flower. Okay, let's pull these together. We're just going to go right sides together. Oops, right sides together and sew them. Easy peasy, right? I'm going to line them up with my fingertips. Right sides together. Somewhere I have scissors. Aha! I hid them from myself. There we go. We're going to open. Now, I'm going to press this one with my fingers, and I'm pressing this seam going this way. So this is the bottom one, and this is our top. I'm going to press the top one to the right. Now they will nest. There we go. Let's see all these little threads. There, let's line those up. And if you need to place a pin in it, go right ahead. Keep it nice and secure. All right. Isn't that cute? What a great way to make a flower. Let me give this a quick press, and we're going to move on to the stems. So don't forget, you need to make 3 flower tops for each of these, each section, not section, each side, that like the left and right side of the table runner. So you're going to make a total of 6. So let's get our stems and leaves together. Let's make a pile. All right, so your I is going to be the stem, and the J, C, and D are going to be your leaves. So we have the C's on the top, and notice they're directional. They come in towards the stem from the top, left and right, in towards the stem. And then the D, if you take note right here and right here, D is a rectangle, not a square. So before we were doing the stitch and flip method using a square, this time we're using a rectangle. So as you're going through the steps, you're going to join your C squares to the top of your J leaf rectangles, and you want to make sure again that the angles are coming in. So make sure that you have them going in the correct direction like I have here. So I've already made the top ones because we've already done this. So this part is easy. You know the stitch and flip method using a square now. So again, I've got them going in the correct direction. I need to flip and trim and press this one, and then we're going to move on to D. So let's get this one taken care of. Use the right side of the ruler that has the 1/4 inch line. It's easy to read. It's a bonus. All right, I'm going to roll over here and quickly give this a press. super cute. Okay, so now let's attach our D rectangle. So I'm going to place this right sides together at the bottom. I'm going to line the bottom and notice how the angles are going. We've already done this one. Now we're going to do this one. So where's my marker? There it is. Now, it might be a little difficult to figure out, like, well, how am I going to do this? So if we're going to remove the excess, we need to make sure that it's going in the correct direction. Now see, I had it placed on the wrong side, so let's move it over here. And we're going to take, remember we had our line drawn from here to here. We're doing the same thing. Now I can see through my D fabric to where the J rectangle ends, and it's right about here, right there. So I'm going to hold it up. And see, yeah, that's right about where it is. But you know what? I've also noticed, I'm going to pick this up, they weren't aligned at the base, so I'm going to bring this. That's important for the stitch and flip method to work and to create these angles that we need. You need to make sure that all the raw edges are aligned, and that has been a mistake that I have made numerous times, and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have been, flying through it. I should have just double checked. Okay, so we also know that our D rectangle is 2 inches. So I'm going to take 2 inches wide. I'm going to take and do this. Now I've got the 2-inch line on the outside, and the edge is right here where I drew that tip. Let me move that a little closer and actually I'm going to make the dot a little bit larger for you so you can see. Bring it up a little closer because I think that's hard to see. Okay. There we go. So I have the 2-inch line running right across here, and it's running along the base, and you can see the diagonal line from the ruler is going from corner down to this spot right here, and that's what you're trying to do. So once you get that marked, now we can go and let's draw that diagonal line. There we go. Now, if you're using like a thick, kind of like my marker tip is a little thick, it needs to be extra fine, but I don't have an extra fine. You want to accommodate for that thick seam or that thick line that you're drawing. And instead of stitching like right down the center of that thick line, if you can stitch right along the edge, right along this edge, because this is the area that we're going to cut off. We're going to remove it. It's the excess. But if you stitch right here, then when we take this piece and flip it in place, it'll be spot on. Okay? All right, let me get this one sewn. And I'm not going to sew from here to here. I'm going to start here and come down. And if you need to place a pin in it, that's a lot to say. It wants a pin in it. Go ahead and do so. All right. Right here. I know I'm using white thread, so it might be difficult to see, but I'm right along the edge of that drawn line. All right. So remember, before you cut it off, take and flip it over. And now this one, since this one is longer than our J rectangle, just finger press for a moment and make sure that the edges are lined up over here. And you can check on the back to see how far it drops down. And that is ready for me to trim and press. And so just remember that these are left and right sides, so you got to make sure you got the angles going in the correct direction. And if you check that before you trim it, it's easy to repair. You just have to rip a few stitches, and then you can replace it, redraw the line in the correct direction and stitch. All right, let me press this one and we'll pull these together. Now, we're just going to stitch our left and right sides together. And then we'll have all 3 stems made for our flowers. And the next step is the flower pot. All right, let me get these sewn and then we'll work on the flower pot. It's so cute. Now, aren't they adorable? All 3 of them are created. So we've got our actual flower heads, if you will, and the stems with our leaves. So, so, so cute. Now it's time to make the base, the flower, the actual pot that the flowers are going to grow out of. All right, so you're going to need your M light brown rectangle, your N dark brown rectangle, and you're going to need your E squares. Now we're doing the stitch and flip method, so you're going to join your E's to your M, and you're going to start from the middle, bring it over here so you can see, start from the middle and sew out to the corner so that your sewing machine doesn't eat your corner sections, all right? And then you're going to pull them back, put them in place, just finger press and make sure that everything lines up before you trim the excess. Then you're going to press, just like we did before. So after that, you're going to take and you're going to sew your end strip to the top, just like I've already done here. Aren't they cute? Look at this pot. Isn't that adorable? Okay, so now we've got all of this together. And now the next thing you're going to do is you're going to join your row of flowers together. You're going to join your row of stems together. And then those 2 rows will come together. And next, you have your flower pot. But before we do all that, we want to add the center. Let me grab those. So you're going to take, there we go. So now I made my center circles for the flowers out of the brown plaid. Oops, make sure that's in. There we go. So you're going to use your template on your pattern and you're going to draw that on the back of your paper release fusible web. Cut it out directly on the line, and then you're going to center and fuse it onto the top of your flower. Next, we're going to applique. So, well, that is the applique. Next, we're going to stitch around all the circles so that they stay in place. Now you can use your favorite thread color, you can use white, you can use variegated, you can use any thread color that you wish. I have white on the machine, so I'm going to use white, and I'm going to switch back to my open toe foot. All right, so I'm going to get set up here. I'm going to select my stitch, and I'm going to use the blanket stitch. That's my favorite. Some people like to use the zigzag stitch or a satin stitch, and some people like to use just a straight stitch, just a stitch around the edges. But I prefer to use the blanket stitch, and I'm going to use my white thread so that it will show up for you. All right, let me finish getting set up, and we're going to do that next. So I have my machine set up for a blanket stitch, and before I did anything, I ran a test before I started stitching. So what we're going to do now is I have the flower placed under my sewing machine needle, as you can see right here, and I have the needle placed directly at the edge of my design because I want the needle to stitch. It stitches right, the thread is going to land right on the edge of the applique, the shape, the circle, and then it'll stitch 1 or 2 stitches, maybe even 3, depending on how your sewing machine is set up. That's why I always say run a test, and then it'll bite over into the applique, and then it'll go back over to the edge. So what you're going to do is you're going to watch how your machine stitches the blanket stitch. Now, if you choose a zigzag stitch, that's going to be a little different. So I would recommend that you practice your zigzag stitch and decide where are the width and the length of those stitches. Okay. All right. So now let's get this started. Now I'm going to go very slow. Whoops. Let me bring my foot pedal where I can reach it. 1, 2. And now notice how I also have my sewing machine to where my foot pedal, not my foot pedal, sorry, my presser foot raises up because I am stitching slowly just to make sure that I've memorized how many stitches straight before it bites over. Okay, let's do this again. There it goes. It was 3 stitches. All right, so we're going to move it slowly. And when I have that pivot feature set up on my machine to where the presser foot raises, I can also turn the block slightly so that I stay aligned directly. And I still have my laser light on, and that kind of helps keep me lined up. And over it goes. And now I'm going to, see, I stopped so I could pivot. 1, 2, I need to pivot. Third one. Oh, well, I was off one. There we go. Okay. There. And now it should pivot over. Yep. And so we're just going to continue around just like this. Now, once you get comfortable, you can speed up just a little bit. But to learn it, I would definitely take my time. And I'm back where I started. I'm going to end my stitches. Depending on how your machine, I can do a straight stitch, or maybe you have a machine that will automatically know where to end it. And there you go. How cute is that? Now, need to finish the other 2 flower centers, and then we can pull it all together. So now you can see my adorable, isn't it cute? Think Spring flower block. I absolutely love it. I went ahead and finished sewing around all 3 of the flowers, the applique, so you can see I did all 3 and joined it all together. Super, super cute. So now you're going to make, you're going to make 2 of these. Your next step is we're going to pull it all together. We're going to do the flying geese border, another skill to learn, another technique. Just to not throw a traditional single little wide border on. So you're going to add the flying geese border. Now, the flying geese are made using the stitch and flip method. We've already learned the stitch and flip method. So I already have my pieces here. I've got the drawn line. You're going to go right sides together and do the same trick I did before, where start in the center and sew towards the corner. Makes life so easy. Before trimming the excess, flip it in place after you have sewn. Make sure everything lines up. If not, you can correct any mistake you might have made. Next, you will trim, and then you will join the other side. So we have a flying geese. Already got it sewn for you. All right, so now on the bottom of your flower pots will be a section of 3 flying geese. Now, you're going to go to where the tips are facing to the flower pot. And you're going to join your squares, and I believe, yep, your squares are L. So these go on after you do the sides. So let's lay the sides out. We're going to go like this. Let me maybe just move this over a little bit so I can see and reach. So you're going to join your flying geese together. You can see they're going to come together. They're so cute. And you're also going to have your middle section of your background piece that goes in between. I believe it's piece A that goes in between your flower pots. You're going to build your flying geese border, and the flying geese border will fit perfectly. So don't be afraid of a pieced border, because they are easy. You're just piecing blocks, and you just have to measure to make sure they all work out. So here's another one. There we go. And then how cute is that? They're surrounded by flying geese. I love it. After you do your flying geese border, you're going to add your G and H borders that are from the background fabric. All right. I hope you loved this project by Julie Weaver. She did such a cute job designing this table runner. I think we're going to use it in summer too because it's so super duper cute. Once you get the whole table runner together, the top, you can free motion on your domestic machine. You don't have to free motion. You can stitch in the ditch or you can just stitch straight lines just to finish it up. You don't need a lot of quilting. It will be super duper cute. Bind it using your favorite method. Maybe choose a really cute fabric that say maybe has stripes or it's a plaid and it just adds another little element of decoration to your table runner. All right, I hope you have enjoyed this project. I know I have. Thank you, Julie, for designing an adorable table runner. Think spring, and we need it when it's wintertime and we don't have a lot of sunshine up here in the north. All right, thank you for joining me today. Don't forget to show us your designs, #Annies, and I will see you on another episode. Happy quilting, everyone.